Hey, you came back again. I'm Daniel, this is Chris, and you're watching The Superhero Show. Now, unlike last week, nothing massive has happened, unless something happens this afternoon before the show goes live on Saturday.
Yeah, as we're recording, nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened, okay? So we're not screwed. We're going to talk about Batman and Superman. So a few weeks ago, we said that we're going to talk about that age-old question of Batman v Superman. I prefer Batman, you prefer Superman, and we were going to kind of talk it out. But we kind of changed it slightly, adapted the theme of the show in light of the feedback we got. Right, Chris?
Yeah, because I collated the feedback because we ran a contest asking you guys to pick your favourite out of the two and say why, and the best one would win a box set of the Batman 66 TV show. And I went through the feedback, and 90% of it was for Batman.
Yeah. I kind of suspected that might have happened.
So it got us talking about the fact, is that true? Like, is he really that much better? Do people really believe that? Is it just the fact that he's a bit cooler than Superman? And I guess it got us discussing a lot of other things. So we thought we'd talk about what that means.
Yeah, we got a few hundred emails in, so it's it's a decent size, but it's not complete. It's not conclusive here. Let's not go crazy. But it does feel like that's the perception. So right up top, we asked this question for a competition. I'm going to read out the winner because I think this probably frames the discussion a little bit. This is from James Isles, so congratulations, James, for winning the box set. He says, when I was growing up, I loved Superman. The bright colours of the outfit, the ability to fly, the laser eyes. What more could you ask for? But then the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy happened and everything changed. Bale's performance in those three fantastic films piqued my interest in Batman. After seeing those films, I started reading up more and more on Batman, getting into the comics, which I never read as a kid. The idea of a normal man training and sacrificing everything in his life to become a true superhero with no special abilities really pulled me into the story. So I think that kind of... Is that what we're talking about? That the influence of those films, and then maybe before it a little bit for the preceding generation, my generation, was also the animated TV show.
Yeah. And
also the Michael Keaton film.
Yeah.
For you? Is that right?
Yeah, well, maybe that is... so my pick is Superman. And maybe one of the reasons is the Christopher Reeve first movie came out the year I was born. And so by the time I was about 4 or 5, it was just on the telly all the time. And it became such a part of my life. It's what I grew up with. And also, it was a pretty damn good superhero movie. It's still one of the best. His performance is one of the great superhero performances. And so maybe for that reason, that's why I've kind of stuck by that character. Even though I was 11 when Batman came out, and that was a massive deal as well.
It was one of the biggest hyped films of all time.
Maybe that's why Michael Keaton's still my favourite Batman. But for me, Superman as well, there's just something about the character. It's kind of the innocence, it's the lack of cynicism there. Whereas with Batman has kind of gotten progressively darker as I've kind of grown older with him. And there's a lot of other things around movie-wise that are in a similar world, I think. Okay. You've got your Punishers, you've got your Bonds, you've got your Bournes. You've got dark people doing dark things, whereas there's something really, I don't know, simple and innocent about Superman that still kind of gets me here. I mean, why Batman for you, Dad?
Batman, I think he's... This is going to sound incredibly pretentious. As people put in the comments, we like to become pretentious. But it is like the 20th century, 21st century kind of like Hamlet. Like, in terms of, there's different portrayals. You can play that character, you can occupy that. What are you going to laugh at?
I was just going to say, I was just thought, it's Hamlet v Christ, basically, is what we're talking about here.
That's the film I want to see next summer. Christ all the way. Anyway, but it's like different actors have done different things with the character. I don't know that happens in comics. You get a new writer on board and they'll transform the character and tease out other elements. But I've grown up with lots of different Batmans, and I feel like the Supermans I've grown up with have all been very similar. Like, Christopher Reeve is Superman for me, but I also grew up with Dean Cain being Superman on TV,
good point,
and Henry Cavill, and you know what, Brandon Routh. They've all done similar. I think they're all in the shadow of Christopher Reeve, to be honest, and his depiction on film. Whereas I feel like different actors have teased out different elements of Batman, and also I think there's something universal about Batman. Like, everyone goes through terrible periods in their life. Everyone at some point in their life will experience grief. And he's this great symbol that you can use a terrible incident in your life and you can harness it, you can turn it into a force for good. And I feel like that's an incredibly powerful message that everyone can find something to latch onto.
Yeah, so I guess it's like you can empathise with a human being who does these things, and it's harder when it's an alien.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Dominic Cuthbert sent an email that I really liked entering the contest. So we'll read it out, Dom. And he says, Batman is a fascinating character for sure, but my interest wanes, get it, when he takes off the cowl. Growing up, the idea of a millionaire playboy who'd lost both of his parents was so out of reach and out of touch that I never related to Bruce. Now, an alien trying to fit into our society was something that I could get behind completely. Often feeling out of place myself, and wanting to be a journalist, Clark was a character I could completely identify with. He was awkward and accident prone, and when he did suit up, it was aspirational. If this loser could be somebody better, then so could I. Alienation is crucial to the power of Superman's character, and at its best, it's a profound message with more to say about society than a certain Caped Crusader. Which I think is really interesting.
That's a really interesting email, and I think that accusation about Bruce Wayne not being an appealing figure maybe was true earlier on in the comics and earlier on in like maybe the TV show and so on, but very much later in the comics, and I think Nolan actually teases out this element, and Conroy did in the animated series, is that Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. That is who Bruce Wayne has become. The persona of Bruce Wayne as this kind of like billionaire himbo, that's the act. And there's a great scene in Batman Begins where he goes to the restaurant. He needs to be seen out dating women, and he falls into a fountain with like two supermodels. And Rachel sees him, and you can see his face just falls because he's like, this isn't me. This is not who I am. And Kevin Conroy was speaking to Kevin Smith on his podcast, and he says that when he used to play the Bruce Wayne role, he used to put on a false voice. And when he played Batman, that was the real voice.
Wow, that's really interesting.
His voice was higher and more kind of slightly disingenuous when he was playing Bruce Wayne. He put on a voice for him. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and there's got to be the influence as well of the last 10 years, the movie. So in the last 10 years, there's been 2.5 great Batman movies, amazing movies, and then 2 kind of average Superman movies. Yeah. I don't know if that's affecting people's kind of opinions of these 2 characters.
Yeah, I really liked Superman Returns when I first saw it, but I think both of them, we both liked Man of Steel when we first saw it, but they've not lingered in the same way. I think they've impressed immediately, but they've just not persisted like the Nolan films have.
So what's this going to mean, do you think, for the film coming, the next one?
I think that's what we're going to... what I wanted to get onto is the first film in the new DC kind of interconnected universe was a Man of Steel film. It kind of was like a soft launch for it. Yeah. And immediately they're bringing in Batman, but it's an older Batman. Mm-hmm. So I can see them playing it 2 ways. Either Ben Affleck is a huge success and he dominates that interconnected universe, which is difficult considering you've got to introduce all these other lesser known characters, or he maybe dies. Yeah. And he casts a different kind of shadow of the entire series, or he's a bit part player. Batman, because he's so recognisable, almost becomes kind of a Nick Fury character where he appears up in several films, and it's something for people to orientate themselves with because they know the Bruce Wayne character, they know the myth, they know the legend, and they know Batman. So you don't have to like, at least there's one coordinate in a Cyborg movie that you can like orientate yourself using. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a difficult job for Zack Snyder, because if you go on our results, 90% of people are more interested in Batman than Superman. How do you... And really, when you think of the history of the 2 characters, literally and metaphorically, Batman should be in Superman's shadow. So how do you balance the 2 of them? You're going to annoy people unless they're both getting an equal amount of screen time, and the characters, are made to seem equally interesting. So I absolutely have no idea how he's going to do it. Like, I haven't got an answer. I just think it's a really interesting question.
Yeah. Well, they're the 2 most famous superheroes on the planet. I think that's pretty fair to say.
Yeah, I would say so.
And, calling your film Superman versus Batman, I think we might have an answer in the next couple of years.
Who's going to win?
I don't know. Wonder Woman.
Can I read a couple more before we go, though? I really like this answer from William Anderson. He says, my favourite is Batman. When I was a kid, my weekends consisted of watching reruns of Batman 66 and new episodes of the Batman animated series in 1992. In my own homemade Batmobile, or should I say first homemade Batmobile, which merely consisted of a desk chair with lots of cardboard boxes painted black and stuck together with tape. It's fair to say I was obsessed with him so much that I even painted our old home phone bright red to match the Bat phone, which his mum didn't like.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about. Did you ever do anything stupid like that?
I used to dress up quite a lot as a little kid. I used to dress up as a Ghostbuster, but that's a different story for a different day.
Yeah, I was a Karate Kid. So maybe we should be doing the Ghostbuster Karate Kid show rather than this. And also, I don't know if you've got any more to say, or can I end on an email?
Can I end on an email?
Okay, it's from Mr. Moogle, and it's one that I wasn't very happy about.
That sounds like a villain, Mr. Moogle.
Hello, Mr. Moogle. This was my least favourite of the answers, of the many hundred that we got. He simply wrote Batman because Superman has never gotten a third movie in a series.
Well, that's just factually incorrect, isn't it, Chris?
Unbelievable.
So Chris went absolutely insane the day he read that email. He almost quit IGN. But if you want to contribute better emails, you can contact us anytime. IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com. And until next week's episode, I hope you enjoy reading IGN.